guys, I just waited in a queue, whatever the frick a queue is, for like 20 minutes to get on. Okay, not really, I'm exaggerating. It took like 5 minutes to get on, which was a long time. It felt like a long 5 minutes. Today I'm gonna be doing a little story time train with me video. I asked my channel members to give me a train with me video topic for November, and one of the ones they picked was story time podcast, like stories about my life. And then I gave my channel members the option to vote. I gave them like 4 different options from different times in my life. For example, little kid Rose, adult stories, teenager stories, and they literally picked dead even one of each. So I'm just gonna pick from the beginning. Today we're gonna be doing stories from my childhood, so little Rose, ages 12 and younger. I would start with the races. What the heck? They redid this? What? You guys, can we talk about this? They redid this truck and it looks so freaking good. I want this car IRL. This is sick. Okay, it's casual. They redid that. Guess what else they redid? They redid this bridge and I don't like it. I miss the old one. Maybe it will grow on me, but to me it looks like there's a hose pipe running around the bridge, which I'm not a fan of. You know, it doesn't look like a vine, and I know that's what they were going for. It looks like a bunch of garden hose. It kind of looks, no, I mean like actual hoses. Sorry. Anyways, that's game updates. Now we're gonna talk about my stories. I'm gonna go to Silverglade Manor. Ever since this new area was released, I find every excuse I can to be here. And if I was smart, I would have trailered to the riding arena because that's where the manor races are now. So LOL, let's enjoy me running to the new races. So I'm gonna be telling stories from my childhood. Over the last few months that I had this idea, I've been writing down, I've been writing down bullet points of different stories from different times in my life so that I could tell you guys these stories. They are in no particular order. They're all super random and super weird, and I'm just gonna tell them to the best of my abilities, so wish me the best of luck. Okay, I'm gonna be starting with a story that is very close to my heart. This one is a little bit longer, and my horse is sad, so it's gonna take as much time as this race to finish this story probably. Okay, so growing up, my uncle had this farm of sorts. We called it a ranch. There were no functional animals on this ranch. It was all weird animals. He had a herd of yaks, he had emus. Yes, you're right, it is weird. And he also had some normal animals, like sometimes he had pigs, sometimes he had goats, sometimes he had cows. Anyways, there was a period of time where he had emus on his ranch, okay? I have a lot of stories about these emus. We would go out on the ranch and we would ride ATVs out there after school on the weekends, me and my cousins. It was really a fun time. And we would just, straight up chill. The only problem is sometimes like our ATV would stall out there, and keep in mind, I'm like a 10-year-old kid. So my ATV stalls out in the middle of this huge property, and then I'm like, frick, I don't know how to fix this ATV. And there's a herd of emus, right next to me. Like, crap, I'm gonna get pecked to death or something like that. Anyway, so it was definitely like, it was the rising conflict of my life was those emus. And you're wondering, Rose, did you actually get attacked by the emus, or was it more just like an irrational fear? Like they probably would leave you alone? No, like I had several confrontations with the emus throughout my time, and I had reason to be afraid. Let me just tell you right now. Okay, I had to make my horse happy because otherwise this is gonna take forever. Anyways, short story long, one time my grandparents were in town. They were watching, like babysitting me and my cousins and my brothers. So we had to go out to the ranch with my grandparents to feed some of the animals while my aunt and uncle were out of town. Okay, so fast forward, it's like after school, we're all bundled up in the car and we have to get out of the car. So my grandparents pull up to like the area where there's a little shed and a driveway, and the emus are like right around us, but we're paying them no mind because the emus are always there. They were always waiting for a chocolate chip cookie to fall out of your hands or something like that. So anyways, we were just assuming the emus would have some chill and leave us alone, and we were like going off doing various kid things. Anyways, so I have a specific memory of all of a sudden my youngest brother, I just have like a specific memory of him screaming, and I just like turn around and this herd of emus is full on chasing my brother. And you know how they do like they like fluff up their feathers and they like get so close to you? I mean, it looks comical if it wasn't terrifying. So anyways, we're all in a very close vicinity as well. So I think honestly, I could have thrown a tennis ball and hit every person involved in this situation. We were all close to each other, but everything happened like in slow motion, but also very fast. So first of all, nobody tried to protect my brother. He was running around the car. It was the fastest I've ever seen him run in his entire life. And the emu, there was one specific emu that was chasing him around the car. So, you know, obviously the older kids in the situation decide to run for their lives. And I was one of those kids in that situation. I ran for my life. So me and one of my cousins, I have a specific memory. There was just this random tractor standing there and it was perfect. We like hurried and got on top of this tractor so that it couldn't reach us. And then my grandpa got the frick in the car and closed the door, which is not helpful. And I don't know what my grandma did. I think she had never gotten out of the car at this point. I don't really remember because, you know, this happened when I was like 10, maybe. I think. Maybe I was older. I don't really remember. Anyways, so then after that, everyone just scattered like freaking M&Ms. I don't know. So anyways, after a little while, we all, I mean, it's not like the emu stopped chasing us and the end, happy story. No, like that didn't happen. What happened is we all the people that were not on the tractor, which is everyone, hurried and like got in the car to escape. Like, I think my grandma opened the door and told my younger brother who was being chased to get in the car, so he did. And then we have a problem because the emus were still out and they were mad. They weren't in the best of moods. So now I'm up on this tractor with my cousin and there's emus between me and the car. Let me just say, I probably peed my pants. Like if there's ever a time to pee your pants, that was the time. And I probably peed a little bit, I'm not gonna lie. So anyways, I did end up making it into the car safely. I think after the whole shabacle, wait, what the heck, is that a word? Is that a word or did I just make that up? Oh wait, it's debacle. Oh my gosh, did I say shabacle? I'm gonna start saying that from now on. Okay, anyways, so after that whole debacle, I did survive. I made it to the car. We drove away in a little bit of a hurry, you could say, and I was more terrified of the emus after that. Many years later, my uncle ended up not having the emus anymore. I didn't ask questions. I'm not gonna lie, I think they got eaten by coyotes, which is really sad if you think about it. As sad as you can feel for a giant bird that tried to kill you, I felt sad for them. Anyways, that's my story about the emus. One of hundreds of stories. That's probably the most dramatic story, and that's the story that makes it around the family dinner table every once in a while. You know what I mean? Okay, speaking of peeing, I feel like this story would not be complete without a little bit of a confession. You know what I mean? I need to make a little bit of a confession. It's a 7-year-old confession. I have never confessed this to anybody before, and you guys are gonna be the first ones. Hopefully no one from my IRL is listening or my life's gonna be ruined. But speaking of pee, okay, so I mean, I was fully potty trained when I was a kid, okay? Like I was, you know, 7 years old. I will say, I have to back up this story. So here I am, 7 years old. This is many years before the emu incident, and I was a really like stressed out kid. Looking back, what the heck did I have to be stressed about? Literally my life was so freaking easy. I would go to first grade, we would read a couple books, go to recess, eat an Uncrustable and a Lunchable, and then go home and I would go swimming with my cousins. Like how difficult of a life is that? It's not difficult at all. But I was very stressed for some reason. I was really nervous all the time. I was an anxious kid. So anyways, that is the preface to this story. I was in first grade, sitting at my little first grade desk. It was about 30 minutes until the end of school. You know that time where you're all anticipating, yay, I get to go home in a second. Like we've made it through this day. Congratulations to us. We have survived. And this day was like all the other days. I was ready to go home. The only difference between this and other days was I needed to use the restroom. You know what I mean? At this point, I have lost some memories of this story, so I'm just going to embellish. Okay, forgive. I mean, I was probably thinking, oh, it's 30 minutes left of school. I'm just gonna try and, you know, hold my pee. What can I say? I was like, okay, I'm not gonna ask to use the restroom. Most kids would be like, oh, I have to use the restroom 6 times a day to get out of class, you know? No, I was a good kid. I didn't want to miss any instruction in the classroom, and so I decided to try and hold my pee for the last 30 minutes of school. Well, small tiny Rose was not able to hold her bladder, so as we were sitting down in class at story time, our teacher was reading us a little book. We were sitting on the floor in a little circle, crisscross applesauce, and I just let it go. I don't know what on earth like made me feel like that would be okay, and then after that happened, I proceeded to pretend it did not happen, and I didn't tell anybody that I peed my pants full on. And I think I had a little sweatshirt, a little zip up sweatshirt, and I just like tied it around my waist, and I was like, you know, we're good to go. We got 30 minutes left of school. No one will notice. I do remember some students saying, what's that smell? And I was thinking, say nothing, they will never find out. And okay, again, this was me and 7 years old. Poor innocent me. I feel so bad for her. Now I would have just been like, oh, I need to use the restroom, but I was probably too scared to ask. Isn't that so sad? Anyways, that's kind of a sad story, but it's a good one. The end of the story is a happy one. I never admitted it or confessed it. Looking back, am I sure other people noticed? Yes, I'm sure other people did notice, but I really thought I had covered that up pretty well, and I thought, you know, we good. I think I'm good to go. No shame. But now that I look back on some of these stories, I realize
I can't believe you've done this.
That's kind of how I feel. I also have a similar story to this. I guess since I'm going to talk about me peeing my pants, I'll tell another story about peeing my pants. This one happened when I was like probably 5 or less, so I really don't have a good memory of this story, but I'll tell you the brief story. So when I was a little kid, I was taking ballet. I know you're thinking, Rose, what? You are not a ballerina. Yeah, I know I'm not a ballerina because of this story. And honestly, this story ended what could have been a really promising career as a ballerina. You know what I'm saying? All I'm saying is, if this hadn't happened, I could be popping off to the Nutcracker right now. Probably I would be playing Clara, you know what I'm saying? So I was taking ballet class, which looking back, it was like a really tiny, crappy classroom. And there was like 7 people in the ballet class. And I think what happened is I told the teacher that I needed to go to the bathroom. And then I don't know what happened. I couldn't hold it any longer, and I just peed my leotard. And I never went back to that class ever again, and I stopped taking ballet lessons at that day. I remember nothing about the decisions that were made that day except that I did not return because I was so embarrassed I peed my pants. And you know, that story really changed my life. I probably wouldn't be here with you today if I hadn't peed my pants. So if you're thinking, Rose, you should be so embarrassed right now, you're such a loser. Well, you're a weenie hat junior, because you wouldn't even be able to be watching this video if I didn't pee my pants in ballet class. So don't be a hater. Okay, anyways. Okay, jumping forward a little bit. This is an oldie but a goodie. Okay, I tell this story often. I've probably told this story on this channel before, but here we are back for more. Round 7 of this storytelling. Maybe you've never heard this story. I don't know. Okay, so when I was in elementary school, I'm not gonna lie, I was kind of, this sounds like, how do I say this, like humble brag, I was kind of like book smart. Okay, but now like dig on myself, self dig, I was really not street smart whatsoever. I was really silly. Okay, I'm just gonna say I had no street smarts. I just had no idea what was going on. I was a real airhead, and yeah. So I was book smart, not street smart. So anyways, I got in this special like program where they take you on like field trips and stuff. And by the way, this is in elementary school, okay? To be smart in elementary school, you have to be able to do like 5 times 5, and that's pretty much it, so don't be too impressed. Anyways, so I was in this special class, and the expectations in this class were high. They gave us like minimal instructions, and they were like expecting us to like take off and bloom like a little flower. Well, no, I needed the instruction. I was like, wait, tell me all of the directions on how to do this, because I am actually feel like a fraud on this class. I remember in that class, I would always be like, how does everyone else in this class seem to know like so much more than me? I was like, why am I like a fraud? Like, I should not be in this class. Anyways, here's an example of why I should never have been in that class. So one time, and we would always like leave class to participate in these field trips or like projects or special homework assignments, which is so dumb. Who wants to do extra homework? Not me. So there was this time where our class, we had to make a PowerPoint presentation. And I know what you're thinking, Rose, that's literally the easiest thing ever in the whole world. Okay, well, when I was a little kid, I didn't even know what a PowerPoint presentation was. Okay, I didn't know what a PowerPoint presentation was, and honestly, they didn't really have, it was not a common thing to make PowerPoints for kids. Okay, we didn't have all the resources, all right? They wanted us to basically make a slideshow on some sort of mythological character or whatever. I don't even remember the topic. Anyways, so we had like weeks to prepare this presentation. So we would like leave class for like an hour every once a week, go to this special class where we would do research. Little Rose is like, what the frick is research? So like that whole time I was probably like Googling pictures of unicorns or something like that. Like I was not doing research because I didn't know what the frick to do. And I was definitely a rule follower. I wasn't one of those kids who was like screwing around on purpose. I was just screwing around on accident because I was actually so confused about what we were supposed to be doing. So anyways, I did eventually end up managing to pick a topic for this presentation. I probably didn't even know what a presentation was at this point. I decided to do my presentation on the Loch Ness Monster, or Nessie. If you don't know what that is, do a quick Google search. You will be amazed. I will send you my PowerPoint presentation if you want, okay? I'll find it in my records. So anyways, weeks to prepare this. I was kind of an airhead. I didn't hear pretty much 90% of the instructions for this project. Not to give a spoiler, but I missed some critical instructions for this project. So I remember the night before the presentation is due. First of all, I was just thinking it was a PowerPoint. I didn't know there was gonna be a presentation. So let me just tell you this right now. So like the night before my project's due, I remember sitting in our home office at the computer with my dad, and we were just like, cool, like you have like a project due. So I like finished typing up my last words about Nessie and basically saved my Word document and then saved it on a little floppy disk. If you don't know what a freaking floppy disk is, good for you. I shouldn't have known what it was either. It was literally the most ancient technology known to man when I was in school, so I don't know why our library was so poor that they needed to use floppy disks, but they did. So that was part of the problem, was the floppy disk situation. So I ended up being able to save my project on a floppy disk, which is just sad, honestly. So I saved my most important words about Nessie on a floppy disk. I think what I did was I took my floppy disk from the school, and then at home I finished it up and then I printed out slides. So I printed the slides. Jeez. I'm just sad telling the story now. Anyways, so the next day of school rolls around. It's like any other day. I go to school, I'm sitting there. Some kids from the special class are like, hey, like, you need to come for a presentation. And I was like, oh yeah, I totally forgot. Okay, like, what the heck? Why was I such an airhead? Don't ask. So anyways, I show up to it was in the library, and then I hear like quite a rumble. There were parents, lots of adults sitting in rows of chairs, and the lights were dimmed in the library, and it was like a huge crowd, and they had all the preparations for people to do presentations of their PowerPoints. So I show up, I see my teacher for the class, and I literally hand her my slides. I hand her the paper, and she just looks at me, and she just looks like SMH. And of course my parents weren't there because they had no idea about it, because I had no idea they were supposed to be there. Anyways, it was a whole situation. My teacher just looked at me like I was literally so stupid. She was like, we have been preparing this for months and you literally hand me a printed piece of paper. That's your project? Okay. So needless to say, I did not present my project that day. My teacher granted me a great mercy in that she didn't make me present it because I didn't have anything to present. And we didn't really get grades on these projects, so it was more just like a you suck sort of situation. And the sad thing is, at the time, I didn't even realize how silly the whole thing was. Only looking back did I realize this is so wild. So like as an adult, I was like talking to my mom one day about like some crazy things that happened in elementary school, and I told her this story and she had never heard it before, and she was like, are you kidding me? Did that really just happen? She was like, are you joking? So anyways, she was flabbergasted. Like, she was amazed. She was disappointed, and we laughed so freaking hard at that story. Ooh, I have so many good and random stories. I'll tell you the next one. Okay, so this story was, honestly, I'm so concerned about myself reading some of these stories. I already told you guys I was a very quiet, kind of anxious kid. I didn't really apparently talk about my feelings very much. I just kind of kept things to myself, you could say. So anyways, one day I was outside and I was like on the swing set, okay, outside my house. I was swinging on that swing, and I probably needed to open like some sort of Capri Sun or a Go-Gurt or something. So I went inside, grabbed some scissors to open my plasticky wrapper for my Go-Gurt, and you know how like when you hold an item, I had like my thumb and my pointer finger grasping the Go-Gurt with one hand, and I had the scissors pointing in towards my hand with the other hand, and also towards the Go-Gurt wrapper. Well, the problem is when I went to just cut that baby off, it also snapped the skin in between my thumb and my pointer finger. And you know how there's like a lot of extra skin between those fingers? It just like cut that baby right in half. If you're ever wondering if scissors will easily cut you, like if your mom is like, be careful with scissors, let me attest to you that they do cut skin. So it happened fast and it was really easy, and those scissors must have been sharp as frick. I don't think my scissors at my house would ever be able to do this, but we had sharp scissors as a kid, so you know what I'm saying. So there were basically, that left me with a hand that had two flaps of skin I mean, it's not like I'm gonna die. Like, it wasn't a major injury. And it surprisingly, from what I can remember, didn't bleed that much. You get kind of like grossed out hearing stories about gory stuff like this, then you should probably not listen to this story from this point on. Probably 5 minutes ago. Anyways, so I had these like 2 flaps of skin that just kind of like rubbed against each other. My biggest fear was I didn't want to get stitches. I don't know why. I mean, stitches aren't even that bad, especially on your hand. Like, they would just numb it. But as a little kid, I was thinking they were probably gonna do like open heart surgery on my hand or something. Like, I was scared. So I didn't tell my parents. What I did was I used, oh my gosh, this is so dumb. I used tape, which is so bad because there's like adhesive on the tape that would get into the open wound, which is such a problem. Oh my gosh, this is so wild. Anyways, so for weeks, I had this hand injury with these literally I needed stitches. Like, it didn't stay together. Like, I was like, I don't even know how it healed. And I'm like looking at my hand right now and I feel like there is a slight difference between the thumb skin on one hand versus the other. And I wonder, is it because I didn't get stitches for that? Anyways, so for weeks, I wouldn't be able to play on the monkey bars. I was no fun at recess, let me tell you. I was the most boring kid on the block because my thumb skin was broken, okay? I couldn't freaking move my fingers, and I progressed from tape to getting like a roll of like Kleenex, and I would put that in between my hand so I couldn't move my hand, and then I would like tape that. It was wild. Anyways, it took like a month to heal, but it did eventually heal. It eventually healed. Sometimes like I would think, oh, the skin is back together. That's wild. The human body is amazing. And then I would like move my hand and it would break apart again. Oh, frick. As you can imagine, it hurt kind of bad. But like the weird thing about it is when I first cut it open, it didn't hurt for a long time, which is weird. You don't really have a lot of feelings in that area, so I was really lucky in that way. But yeah, anyways, that's the time I cut open my thumb skin. That was kind of crazy. And let me just say, you're not gonna believe me when I say this, but I genuinely did that twice. So after that whole situation in elementary school, later in like middle or high school, I did the exact same thing again. This time I was probably not trying to open Gogurt, I was probably trying to open like Gusher Extremes or something like that, you know what I mean? Enough of that, that was wild. That was a little too wild. We need to go to something more tame. Okay, we're gonna go to my next embarrassing story from elementary school. How long have I even been talking? This has honestly gone by like so fast. I don't even know where I am right now. I'm like realizing how long have I been talking? Who knows? We'll just keep going. Okay, so when I was a kid, we lived on like a cul-de-sac, okay? So that means, if you are not familiar with cul-de-sacs, it just means that your neighborhood or your house where you live in a neighborhood is like a U. So like it's not, there's no through traffic. It's just like people that live in that area. We had a pretty safe street, I gotta say. And we had really nice neighbors, and everyone would sit outside on their lawns, and we would play together. We would go to each other's houses. It was really fun. It was all boys too. So story of my life. I only had brothers, and then there were no girl neighbors. They were all boys. So that's amazing. Anyways, so one particular day I was outside playing by myself. I don't know why I was playing by myself. I was over everyone apparently, and I wanted to hang out with myself. So I pull up my nice little bike. Maybe I was blowing off steam because I was about to go to piano lessons, and I hated piano lessons. So I'm freaking riding my bike, and I had this intrusive thought, I should try to ride in the exact middle of the road. And if you've ever seen some roads, like the center of the road on my street was higher than the sides, so it was like a U shape almost, but that's a little dramatic. It was like a U shape but less severe, so it was curved. So the center of the street had even like a slight like raised line to it, and then the rest of the street kind of laid downwards towards the gutters on both sides. So the street was not straight. So me trying to ride in the middle of the street meant I was basically trying to ride exactly on top of this like really small skinny line that went down the street. So of course I decided to do this right before piano lessons, so dramatic. So as I'm trying to get both of my wheels exactly on line with this like perfect straight middle of the street, one of my tires ends up on one side of that little divot, and the back of my tires ended up on the other side, to the point where my bike completely just like tore out. And you know, luckily I was going as fast as possible. You know, if I was going slow, then this story would not have happened. So I was going so fast, like honestly so fast. And I can honestly say this is the only time in my life, well, one of the few times where I can say I genuinely passed out and have no recollection of what happened. But that's exactly what happened. The last thing I remember was my bike becoming very unsteady, and getting caught on like either side of that little middle of the line little impression. I don't know what to say. And the next memory I have is of me falling, and I have a specific memory of one of my neighbors. They were literally so nice. They saw what was happening, and like one of my neighbors standing up out of his beach chair looking like genuinely like, oh my gosh, like the world has ended. I may have made that up in my mind, but that is what I remember. And then I remember waking up and I was sitting on my couch at home and I had an ice pack, and my parents were like, what happened? So I guess what happened is totally got knocked the frick out, and my neighbor had to carry me to my house, and my parents probably thought that I was gonna die. So yeah, that's what happened. That's really dramatic. Oh my gosh. I ended up being okay. I mean, I don't think that I have like permanent brain damage, but you can be the judge. I have one more story kind of related to bikes, which this one happened on a scooter. I mean, I guess I was kind of a risky kid. I was riding skateboards, scooters, bikes, and you know, when you're doing all these things, crap happens, okay? Stuff happens. If anyone has any understanding of what a razor scooter means, basically the most important thing to know about razor scooters is whenever you try to do little tricks on them, or even just trying to ride them and like get off the scooter, the bottom of the scooter would, no matter what you tried to do, would swing around in a little circle and smack your ankle right on the bumpy part of your ankle, and it hurts so freaking bad. Every single time. I have permanent ankle damage from the razor scooters. Anyways, this story is not about ankle damage from razor scooters, but it is about some other damage from razor scooters. Okay, so in the morning, I guess my brother was taking his sweet time getting ready for school, and it was like, I was probably in like somewhere between 3rd to 5th grade, so I was probably like 10 or something like that. I didn't want to go to school, which is not new for me. I never wanted to go to school for any of the days of my entire life, but I went forever. So I decided, you know what I'm gonna do before I go to the school on this gloomy Tuesday morning, whatever morning day it was, I'm gonna just take my scooter out for a little rodeo before school. So while we're waiting for my brother to comb his hair into a perfect little braid, whatever he was doing, he was taking forever, I decided to take my razor scooter. I decided to take that baby out for a spin. Crap, I ended up, why am I doing this? So of course, I decided to try and jump the curb with my scooter and do all these kind of fancy tricks, but my 7:30 a.m. brain couldn't handle it, and I ended up falling within 1 minute and 30 seconds of starting the ride on my scooter. I ended up falling, not only falling, but landing on my hands, which if anyone has landed on your hands, it feels right at the moment. It's instinctual to land on your hands because you want to catch yourself. The problem is you break your wrists. So I didn't break my wrists. I'm not gonna lie. Growing up, my parents were always like, you're probably fine. In none of these stories did I see a doctor, LOL. That's so funny. Okay, but I did end up falling on my hand really hard, and one wrist in particular I'm pretty sure was sprained, but I never got that confirmed. So I just ended up having to go to school that day, and my wrist hurt more and more. You know how like when you first injure yourself, like initially you can't feel it as much because your body's like in shock a little bit. So it was kind of like that, but I kind of fell off my scooter, and my mom kind of was like, why were you riding your scooter? We have to go to school. And I was like, oh, like I got in trouble, you know what I mean? And I fell, and I was probably a little upset, but she was probably like, you're fine. She probably had an appointment, so she was like, you gotta go. Like, it's time for you to go to school. So I get to school. Throughout the day, progressively, my wrist hurts more and more. And it was like so bad that it, like when I would walk, it would hurt. Like it was just like painful. It was probably sprained. Anyways, I don't really have a resolution for that story. It hurt for weeks after that. There's no happy ending to that story, but I will tell you that as of today, it is healed. So don't even worry. It did heal. Okay, I have so many childhood stories that I did not even get to, but I'm gonna tell one more story. It's kind of related to this. Again, if you're sensitive to stories about body fluids, you probably shouldn't listen to this whole podcast, whatever this is, but for the rest of us who are a little bit on the wild side, this story is gonna be a good one. It's one of my faves. Okay, so I was in 5th grade, which if you're not from the United States, that means I was like 11. I was 11 years old, so not super young. Okay, at this point, I'm old enough to not want to fully embarrass myself in front of the other kids. I didn't want to be a freaking Weenie Hut Junior, okay? I wanted to be cool. I wanted to be one of the cool kids. That never ended up happening, just FYI. Okay, so anyways, I was feeling really sick one morning, but I think my mom had to go to a doctor's appointment, and so she was like, you're probably fine. And to be fair, we all faked being sick so much that she was probably like, you're a liar. So she dropped me off at school, and throughout the day I could progressively was like, I feel worse and worse and worse, like I do not feel good. It got to the point where it was time for lunch. So I was thinking, oh, like I have to stand up and I like don't feel good. Felt like I was gonna probably throw up, you know, kind of had that feeling for the whole morning. So anyways, I didn't feel good. We stood up to go wait in lunch, and of course the line for lunch was so freaking long, and I just felt I was gonna die, but I had to stand there in line and keep walking. I was standing there in line, and I have a specific memory, and we finally made it into like where we're actually like the line made it up to the cafeteria. So we got inside the cafeteria where every student in the school is eating their lunch, and at that point my body just gives up and I puke my guts out in the lunch line, and it's so freaking embarrassing. Luckily I was so sick that I did not even feel really embarrassed. I just remember someone immediately took me to the nurse, and they were calling my mom to come pick me up, and she didn't, because she didn't answer the phone because she was at an appointment. So they had to call the second person on my emergency contact list. LOL. You guys, whenever you're filling out those emergency contact lists, let me just say, choose wisely, okay? That's all I'm gonna say. Yeah, so I ended up getting picked up by my aunt, and it was a good time. She told me her throw up story, and it made me feel 0 times better. And then I had to go to school probably the next day, and at this point I am just so grateful I'm not in school anymore. I'm just glad this is behind me, and other kids probably tell stories about me to this day. I don't know. It really did me no favors. Okay, honestly, I had a lot of fun filming this. It was fun to talk about some of my stories from my childhood and reminisce. Let me know if you guys want to see more videos like this. I have a million more stories. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed. Thanks for watching. Bye.
I'm on thin ice, you'd never guess. I've been hiding a monster, keeping it quiet.